What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Woxki MMA channel. Today I'm going to be giving my picks and predictions for UFC Fight Night Shanghai, NURMAGOMEDOV versus Song. I went 8-5 on the Sacramento Fight Night. I did get the main event wrong, but we're going to be spinning the block. We're going to be getting it back in blood, so to speak, and we're going to be doing well on this card. Like and subscribe for more content like this, and without further ado, let's break down the first fight on the card. Meng Ding versus Cam Nelson. Cam Nelson has the majority of his wins on the Canadian regionals, which, I do not rate very highly, whereas Meng Ding has a wealth of experience, Chinese regional, a little bit of UFC experience. He is the bigger guy. He will be the bigger guy inside the octagon. As the craftier vet, I reckon Meng Ding can get a decision. Moving on, Jingnan Xiong versus Julia Pilastri. Shong's last fight, she fought Angela Hill and she got pieced up. Hill was landing knees consistently throughout the fight that were really nasty. Xiong is 10 years older than Julia Pilastri, which goes to Pilastri's favor. Pilastri, she's 2-3 inside the UFC, but she's got, she fought good level of competition. She had a loss to Lupita Godinez. It is what it is. She has a TKO over Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I'm going to go with Julia Pilastri by submission. I think Xiong, bit overrated. One FC experience we've kind of seen is not the greatest base for MMA. Moving on, we've got Lawrence Louis versus Hector Santiago. I'm kind of torn on this one. Santiago, he recently fought in Money Moicano MMA, otherwise known as MMMMA. Lawrence Louis, he has some experience in Eternal. He picked up a win at UFC 325 as Road to UFC final. But supposedly this is his UFC debut, which I think is a little strange. Louis is going to be the bigger guy in there frame-wise. I like Hector Santiago's positional awareness with the grappling. In some of his regional fights, he takes the back well. He has good kind of ground and pound finishes. He does have a submission loss on his record. I believe that is his one loss, but he's also got a fair few losses in kickboxing and boxing fights, as well as karate combat. But I think those are kind of things that will aid him. He's got a wealth of experience in the striking. I think you could say he's got more experience than Lawrence Louis. He knows what to do, and I think he'll know how to be defensively responsible. I don't see Santiago getting knocked out by Louis. I could maybe see Louis getting ahead on points, but I might have to go with Hector Santiago by decision. I don't know. I like what I've seen from him. I don't think Louis is an easy fight for anybody, but I think Santiago's going to tough it out. I think he's going to win a decision, maybe a split decision. Both guys are really good. But I'm going to have to go with Santiago. Moving on, Jack Jenkins versus Sean Woodson. You already know who I'm picking. Sean Woodson's good. He is good. But he's been out for a very long time. His last fight was a loss to Dan Ige, a knockout loss. He was winning that fight, in my opinion. I know the judges had it in Ige's favor. But I thought Woodson was winning that fight up until Ige kind of pulled it out the bag. Jack Jenkins, he's going to punish those low kicks, and Sean Woodson, very skinny calves. I think those low kicks are going to be a real hindrance to him. I think they're really going to bother him. Jenkins is also a very solid striker. He absolutely dispatched Herbert Burns, who I know isn't a very high-level opponent. But Jenkins's losses, they're understandable, and they don't come in the way that Woodson would be beating him by. Jenkins has two kind of like injury submissions. Woodson isn't going to be grappling very much, and if they are grappling, I think Jenkins will have the edge on him. He'll definitely be stronger in clinch positions and whatnot. Woodson will be able to punish the knees, but I think Jenkins is the kind of guy who can tough it out. And I could see Jack Jenkins getting a knockout win over Sean Woodson, just punishing those leg kicks. I think he'll be ahead on points. I think, he could win a decision. I think he's probably got Woodson beat in the grappling. And yeah, moving on. Long Zhao versus Francesco Nuzzi. Nuzzi, not sure how to pronounce his name. Two nutshotters. Nuzzi had his last fight become a no contest due to nutshots. Long Zhao had a fight with Cody Garbrandt where he would have won by decision had it not been for point deductions, which made it so Garbrandt won that fight. I think Long Zhao's going to win. I liked what I saw against Cody Garbrandt. He's an aggressive fighter. He had him kind of stumbled at one point, which sure, not that hard with Cody Garbrandt, but I think that Long Zhao is going to get it done. I think Nuzzi, being Italian is not a great base for MMA. He has fought in Cage Warriors, which is, pretty good, but I think Long Zhao's just going to get it done. Ray Saruya versus Kevin Borjas. Kevin Borjas is 2-4 in the UFC, and his losses are to good fighters. Joshua Van, Emmanuel Rodriguez, what's his name? He lost to another guy who was good. He's lost to good fighters, is what I'm trying to get at. And his wins come over Ronaldo Rodriguez, which, not the greatest win, as well as Andre Lima, which is something of a fluke, I reckon. Just don't think that was Lima's night. I've got Saruya winning by decision. Made easy work of Louis Garul in his last fight. He lost against Joshua Van. He lost his undefeated streak, but he came back better. He rebounded, and I think that's going to be too much for Borjas, who is mind-bogglingly ranked in the Meta AI rankings, which is, just a part of the reason why they suck. Also, he's younger than I expected, actually. I thought Borjas was like 36, 37, but it doesn't matter. I think Ray Saruya is going to get it done. He's a really good wrestler, and, that Joshua Van fight, I think that says more about how good Van is as a wrestler, as more than, Ray Saruya is not a good wrestler. Moving on, Andre Lima versus Namsrai Batbayar. His one loss on his record is a submission to Tumen Dembarel, the fellow who submitted Cody Durden. And there's been a couple fellows who have submitted Cody Durden, but Tumen Dembarel did so on the Holloway Oliveira card. I'm going with Andre Lima, more experience in the UFC. I think he's going to get a submission over Namsrai Batbayar, who will be able to be submitted. Has fought weaker competition up to this point in his career than Andre Lima. I think Andre Lima is going to have a bit of a fire under him after losing his O to Kevin Borjas. There's going to be more pressure on him to perform. I think he's going to get it done. I like Andre Lima. Belal Hassan versus Nilson Rojas. Belal Hassan knows how to cut a promo, okay? Young, dumb, and full of, experience, technical striking. Belal Hassan's very dangerous. They've found him a short notice opponent who is also 9-0. I think the odds are a bit too, for what it is, I think the odds are a bit too, there's a bit too much of a disparity, a bit too much of a gap. But, they've bought Rojas off the regionals. I think that kind of goes to show that they're laying Hassan up to get a highlight reel, which is what he's all about, the highlight reels. I'm going with Belal Hassan, the Indoninja, that's his nickname, from Indonesia. Well, reps Indonesia from Washington, D.C. I'm going with him. Look, You're a favorite. You're supposed to get it done. Get it done by knockout. Tough opponent though. Maybe a decision. If you're a betting man, leave this alone. Yeah. Oh, and he'll be the taller opponent. The reach, who knows? UFC website doesn't have that info. Topology doesn't have that info. It's lost media. Moving on to, we have Levi Rodriguez Jr. versus Luis C. Levi Rodriguez Jr. Knockout on the Contender Series. Lost his last fight, I believe, to the guy who lost to Mario Pinto. I think that might have been a knockout loss. But I'm still going to go with him over C. Louis. Or Louis C. I'm not sure how to pronounce the C part of his name. But look, I don't rate his level of competition. I don't rate his experience in mixed martial arts. I think the kickboxing stuff's nice. I think he's a good striker. But, I think he would have beat Junior Tafa. He was originally booked against Junior Tafa. I think that's a winnable fight for him. Because Junior Tafa isn't the kind of guy who wins against a C. Louis. He wins against, Kevin Christensen, a short notice fill-in opponent or something like that. But I think Rodriguez Jr., he's going to have the jiu-jitsu, the striking, and I think he's going to be a more well-rounded mixed martial artist. I think he's going to craft it up and get it done. We'll say decision. Moving on to the main card. Oh, this is the main card. Never mind. Alex Perez versus Sumadaji. This is a rematch. Sumadaji was gaining momentum in that second fight until he hit a lethal nut shot. But I'm going to go with Alex Perez in the rematch. I think he's going to recognize when he had success in the first fight. I think he's going to be able to build upon that. We've seen him be able to land bombs on, tall, rangy guys. He knocked out Charles Johnson. That's very impressive. Not a lot of people can do that. And Sumadaji, whilst he is good, he's a good striker. He dropped Perez. But Perez had him in a world of trouble with that guillotine. Perez has the advantage in the grappling. I think he's going to be a lot more kind of... He now that he knows what's in front of him and how Sumadaji kind of, would like to pick him apart, I think Perez is going to go all on the gas, full pressure. I think he's going to be trying to get him against the fence, take him down, ground and pound, try and get a submission. I think Perez is going to grind out Sumadaji. I've got Perez by finish. Moving on, Arichileng versus Kaya Sakura. Going with Kaya Sakura. They've matched him up with Arichileng because they think it's a winnable fight for Asakura. It is. Arichileng just got knocked out with knees by Cody Haddon. Cody Haddon is very good. Arichileng has also been knocked out by Ayman Zahabi. I'll repeat that. Arichileng has also been knocked out by Ayman Zahabi. I'm picking Kaya Sakura by knockout. Also, just on some other stuff, Arichileng lost a decision to Raul Rosas Jr. It was mostly kind of the grappling which he lost by. So, I'm not saying Asakura is a world-class grappler by any means, but I think he can have success mixing it up. I think he's going to, be the more credentialed striker. Now that he's got that knockout over Cameron Smotherman, I think he's going to have a bit more confidence heading into this fight and trust in his ability. I think bantamweight is really his division. Moving on, we have Denise Gomez versus Xiaonan Yan. I'm picking Denise Gomez by decision. Xiaonan Yan hasn't looked great in her past couple fights. She shut out Tabitha Ricci, which we've gone on to see is not a very well-aged win. She did have Zhang Wei Li in some trouble, but she was also, I think they say, she lost that fight by decision, knockout, and submission. And she also kind of got outcrafted, bullied a little bit, I should say, by Verna Jandiroba. I think Denise Gomez is going to look at that. It's a very powerful strawweight as a very, imposing on the grappling, much younger opponent. It's like nearly 11 years is the age difference. I think Denise Gomez, she's going to have more pop in her shots. I think she's got the fastest KO in women's UFC history, or WMA, yeah, women's UFC history, I'll say. Yeah, just using the eye test, I think Denise Gomez is going to get it done. Sorry if the analysis isn't that technical, but the way these cards work, where it's like, we'll go to the country. It's either everyone who represents China wins or everyone who represents China loses, And if you're noticing a pattern, I don't think China is going to have a very good night. Moving on to the main event, I think Umar Nurmagomedov beat Song Yadong by decision. I think, yes, Song Yadong has good takedown defense, but he's no Merab. Merab got taken down by Umar. Yes, also, Merab had more things going for him in that Umar fight. He had the cardio he could line on. Song Yadong, yes, he's got good cardio, but he can kind of fade in a fight as that kind of explosivity wears off. Umar Nurmagomedov, I think, will be able to get Song Yadong down. And we've seen in the grappling, you can make it close with Umar Nurmagomedov, but you're not going to get ahead of him. Mario Bautista, prime example. He knocked Umar down. He had Umar wobbled. And then when they went to the ground, he was also, he was going for subs and stuff. But Umar, being from the Dagestan camp, Team Habib, he knows what he's doing. And I think he's got the clear advantage in the grappling. Now, the striking, I think he's going to be able to keep Song Yadong at bay with, his kicks. Umar Nurmagomedov, very dynamic kicker. Head kicks to the body, teeps, axe kick, whatever. Song Yadong is going to be trying to get in boxing range, but I think if he gets in boxing range, Nurmagomedov will try and clinch, where he will have, more options in terms of, throws, body locks, what have you. Song Yadong does have a submission threat. We saw in his last fight. He was able to latch up a submission. I think it was a guillotine against Davison Figueiredo. And, Nurmagomedov didn't finish Figueiredo, but he did beat him bell to bell. And I think, I foresee it being a close fight. I think Song Yadong will have some success with the boxing, with the strikes, with the takedown defense. I could maybe even see Song Yadong winning rounds 4, winning rounds 3. I see this fight being a 48-47 decision, but I think Umar's going to get it, and I think the rounds he's going to win them clearly, so I don't see a robbery for Song Yadong. But yeah, I've got Umar Nurmagomedov by decision. And if he wins and Merab wins against Jan, then he'll be fighting for the title. If Jan wins, they're going to make the Sean O'Malley fight, and then Umar's going to fight, Sean O'Malley or Piotr Jan. But yeah, so my picks are Meng Ding, Julia Pilastri, Hector Santiago, Jack Jenkins, Long Zhao, not Kevin Borjas, Ray Saruya, Andre Lima, Balil Hassan, Levi Rodriguez Jr., Alex Perez, Kaya Sakura, Denise Gomez, and Umar Nurmagomedov. The only Chinese fighter I am picking on the card is Long Zhao. So yeah, that's just my thoughts on UFC Shanghai. We'll see how I do with the picks, and yeah, bye-bye.